How many of you have ever felt completely alone, like no one understands you, no one stands by you, and no one truly cares? We live in a world where everyone is connected, but most people feel disconnected. We scroll through hundreds of faces, yet our hearts still whisper, I need someone. But what if I told you, you don't need anyone to feel complete? You see, my friends, we often grow up believing that happiness is something others give us. From childhood, we're taught to seek approval from parents, from teachers, from friends, from society. We start measuring our worth based on how much others appreciate us, how often they include us, how warmly they treat us. But the truth is, that's a very fragile way to live. Because the day people stop appreciating you, you start doubting yourself. The day they walk away, you start feeling like something is wrong with you. And that's where the real problem begins. We start depending so much on the outside world for love that we forget to build love within ourselves. We wait for someone to make us feel seen, to make us feel valued, to make us feel special, when in reality, we already are special. The only difference is we've forgotten to see it. Think about it. When was the last time you spent a day with yourself and actually enjoyed it? No phone, no friends, no distraction, just you, your thoughts, your dreams, your peace. Most of us are scared of being alone, not because we hate solitude, but because we've never learned to be comfortable with ourselves. We want others to understand us, yet we haven't understood ourselves. We want others to love us, but we haven't learned to love our own flaws, our own imperfections. We want others to stand by us, but we don't even stand by our own heart when it hurts. Self-connection is not selfishness, it's self-respect. It's about knowing that you can sit in silence and still feel whole. It's about realizing that even when no one checks on you, you can still care for yourself. Even when no one says, I'm proud of you, you can still smile and say, I'm proud of me. When you connect deeply with yourself, you stop begging for attention and start attracting peace. You stop searching for validation and start radiating confidence. You stop waiting for people to complete you because you finally understand you were never incomplete. You are not half a person waiting for another half to make you whole. You are already complete. You only need to meet yourself again. And when you do, when you finally sit with your soul and say, it's okay, I'm here for you, something magical happens. The noise fades, the anxiety softens, the need for constant approval disappears. You begin to enjoy your own company, your own laughter, your own silence. And that's when life becomes lighter, quieter, and infinitely more beautiful. Because you realize you were never truly alone. You just hadn't found you yet. Peace, my friends, is not something you find outside. It's something you build inside. We think peace comes when everything around us calms down. When people stop arguing, when life stops challenging us, when problems stop coming. But let's be honest, that day never comes. There will always be noise. There will always be misunderstanding. There will always be something that doesn't go the way we planned. And if our peace depends on a perfect world, we'll never be peaceful. True peace is not the absence of chaos. True peace is the presence of clarity in the middle of chaos. It's that quiet voice inside you that whispers, it's okay, even when everything outside is screaming, it's not. Most people chase peace through people. We think, if this person loves me, I'll be fine. If my boss appreciates me, I'll be calm. If my family supports me, I'll finally be at peace. But what happens when they don't? What happens when someone misunderstands you, when someone hurts you, when life doesn't go your way? If your peace lives in someone else's behavior, then they control your life, not you. Imagine giving your happiness to someone else like a remote control. They press one button, and you feel happy, another, and you feel broken. Isn't that exactly what we do? We let people's opinions decide how we feel about ourselves. We let temporary emotions decide permanent states of mind. But peace doesn't work like that. Peace is not found in others' validation. It's found in your own awareness. It's not what happens around you that decides your peace. It's what happens within you. When you start spending time with yourself, in reflection, in silence, in gratitude, you begin to discover that peace was never lost. It was just buried under too much noise. The noise of comparison, of fear, of expectations, of ego. You start realizing that peace doesn't come from controlling the world, it comes from controlling your reactions to it. Think about this. If a storm is raging outside, you can't stop the wind, but you can close your windows, light a candle, and sit quietly inside. That's peace. It's not about controlling the storm, it's about controlling the space within. Peace grows when we stop fighting reality. When we stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "Let me learn from this." Peace comes when we stop trying to win every argument and start choosing silence over ego. Peace comes when we stop chasing perfection and start accepting imperfection. It's not easy. It takes awareness. It takes daily effort to pause before reacting, to breathe before judging, to understand before speaking. But the more you practice it, the stronger your peace becomes. And soon, you reach a point where no matter what's happening around you, someone can shout, someone can leave, someone can criticize, and yet your mind remains still. You stop swinging between highs and lows. You stop losing yourself in every situation. You simply remain. That's real freedom. That's real strength. Because when peace becomes yours, our inner habit, no one can take it away. When you stop depending on people to make you calm, you become unstoppable. You walk into every room with quiet power, not loud, not dramatic, just deeply centered. And people feel it. They sense your calm. Because peace, when real, radiates, it doesn't need to be announced, it's simply felt. So, my dear friends, don't look for peace in others. Don't wait for the world to become quiet. Close your eyes, take a breath, and realize peace was always here, right inside you. People will come and people will go. Some will walk into your life like sunlight, bright, warm, full of hope. And some will leave like a storm, sudden, painful, and without warning. That's just how life works. Nothing in this world is permanent. Friends change. Families change. Relationships fade. People evolve. Circumstances shift. But amidst all this movement, there is one person who never leaves you. Are you? You are the only constant in your story. Yet ironically, you're the one you spend the least time with. We spend years trying to please others, trying to fit in, trying to make sure no one leaves us. But we rarely stop to ask, am I still with myself? When you base your happiness on people, you build your peace on sand. The moment they walk away, everything collapses. And when that happens, we start blaming them for our emptiness. But in truth, they were never meant to carry the weight of your happiness. That was always your responsibility. Every person in your life plays a role. Some teach you love, some teach you pain, some teach you lessons you never asked for. But none of them are meant to complete you. They are only meant to complement you for a while. You can't hold on to people like possessions. You can't trap moments that are meant to pass. The beauty of life lies in learning to cherish without clinging. The greatest mistake we make is thinking that relationships are meant to last forever in the same form. No. Some souls are just passing through. They come to awaken something within you, to help you grow, to open your heart or your eyes, and then they leave. And their leaving doesn't mean you're unloved, it means the lesson is complete. So stop trying to glue people into your life who are meant to teach you temporary chapters. Let them go with grace. Because the truth is, when you cling, you suffer. But when you accept, you grow. You are the only one who truly knows what it feels like to be you. Your fears, your struggles, your late night thoughts, your quiet victories. And that's why your relationship with yourself matters more than any other. When you start giving yourself the attention you always gave others, you begin to heal. When you start listening to your heart instead of chasing validation, you begin to find peace. You must learn to be your own home. Because homes built in other people will collapse the moment they move out. But the home you build within yourself, that's eternal. It's the place you return to when the world feels heavy, when people misunderstand you, when life tests you. Some people will love you deeply, but not stay forever. Others will stay, but never understand you fully. And that's okay. Because you're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to understand yourself. When you accept that people are temporary and that you are permanent, you stop fearing loss. You stop begging for attention. You stop chasing after those who no longer choose you. You begin to walk alone, not out of pride, but out of peace. Because you realize that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being with the one person who will never abandon you, yourself. And so, when someone leaves, don't fall apart. Sit down, take a deep breath, and whisper to your heart, "It's okay. I'm still here." Because no matter who stays or who goes, no matter what changes, no matter how hard life becomes, you will always be your longest commitment. And when you truly understand that, you stop fearing the temporary. You stop worshipping permanence. You start living in peace, knowing that even if everyone walks away, you still have the most loyal companion of all you. Silence, it scares most people. The moment life gets quiet, we rush to fill it with something: music, conversation, scrolling, noise. Because deep down, we're afraid of what silence might reveal. We've gotten so used to being surrounded by sound that the absence of it feels uncomfortable. But what if I told you silence isn't emptiness? What if silence is strength? What if silence is where your soul finally gets the space to speak? Most people think silence means loneliness. But silence doesn't mean you're alone. It means you're in the company of your own thoughts. And that can be one of the most powerful, healing places to be. Because when the noise fades, you begin to hear yourself again. You begin to hear what your heart has been trying to tell you all along. The truth beneath the chaos. In a noisy world, silence is rebellion. Everyone is shouting to be heard. Everyone is running to be seen. Everyone is trying to prove something. And in that rush, we forget to pause, to breathe, to listen. Silence, my friends, is not weakness, it's wisdom. Because only a wise person knows that not everything needs a reaction. Not every insult needs a reply. Not every conflict deserves your energy. When you start embracing silence, you stop wasting your power on noise that doesn't matter. You begin to see how much strength lies in restraint. It takes courage to walk away without saying a word. It takes maturity to stay calm when you're misunderstood. It takes wisdom to stay silent when your ego wants to scream. Silence teaches you patience. It teaches you observation. It allows you to feel emotions without being ruled by them. When you sit in silence long enough, you start seeing things clearly. What truly matters, who truly cares, and what's worth your peace. You begin to understand that sometimes silence solves what words cannot. There are moments in life when silence is your best response. When someone tries to drag you into an argument, silence protects your dignity. When someone tries to provoke you, silence disarms their control. When life gets confusing, silence brings you clarity. In silence, you begin to realize that your mind has a voice of its own, one that's often drowned by the world's noise. It's in those quiet moments that ideas are born, healing happens, and self-awareness grows. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of peace. Look at nature. A tree doesn't speak, yet it grows. A river doesn't shout, yet it flows. The sun doesn't argue, yet it rises every day, fulfilling its purpose. They don't need to make noise to prove their existence. They simply are. That's what silence does. It anchors you in being, not in proving. We've been conditioned to equate loudness with confidence. But true confidence doesn't need volume. True confidence walks silently because it knows its worth. Silence is the language of self-assurance. When you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you start respecting yourself more. There will be times when silence feels heavy, when your heart aches and no words can fix it. But that's okay. Sit with it. Let the silence hold you. Because sometimes silence is not a punishment, it's a pause for transformation. It's the universe saying, be still. Something within you is growing. And when you learn to be comfortable in silence, you become unshakable. You no longer need noise to feel alive or validation to feel worthy. You stop running after distractions because peace itself becomes your companion. So the next time life goes quiet, don't panic. Don't rush to escape it. Sit down, close your eyes, listen. Because in that silence your soul is whispering, I'm here. I've been waiting for you. And that, my friends, is where your true strength begins. Not in the words you speak, but in the peace you can hold, even when everything else is silent. We live in a world obsessed with validation. From the moment we wake up, we look for signs that we matter. A like, a comment, a compliment, a smile. We crave approval like oxygen, not realizing that it's slowly suffocating our authenticity. We post our lives, our achievements, our emotions, waiting for the world to clap. And if it doesn't, we begin to question our worth. But here's the truth. You don't need anyone's applause to feel valuable. You don't need anyone's validation to feel enough. You were worthy long before anyone noticed you. Validation is addictive because it feels good. Who doesn't like appreciation? But the problem starts when we become dependent on it. When every action, every decision, every dream is filtered through the question, what will people think? And that's how most people lose themselves, not because they're bad, but because they're too busy trying to please everyone else. The tragedy is, we hand over the power of our happiness to people who might not even remember our names tomorrow. Think about it. One moment, someone praises you and you're flying. The next, someone criticizes you and you're falling apart. That's not living. That's emotional slavery. When your peace depends on others' opinions, your emotions become a puppet, controlled by whoever decides to pull the strings that day. Real freedom begins when you take that power back. When you stop asking for permission to be yourself. When you stop waiting for others to tell you that you're doing well. You don't need anyone to validate your dreams, your beauty, your potential, or your journey. Because the truth is, the people who truly see your worth will never make you beg for it. And the ones who make you feel small don't deserve a voice in your story. Let me tell you something powerful. The same people who ignore you today might admire you tomorrow, and the same people who admire you today might ignore you tomorrow. So why give their words so much weight? Why let your mood swing with their opinions? If people's praise can build you, then their criticism can destroy you. But if your confidence comes from within, no one can shake it. There's a quiet strength in not needing to prove yourself, in walking into a room without seeking attention, in speaking your truth even if your voice trembles, in knowing that your value doesn't decrease when someone fails to see it. You don't need to shout your worth. It shows in how you carry yourself, in how you treat others, in how peacefully you sleep at night knowing you lived authentically. When you stop seeking validation, something magical happens. You begin to listen to yourself. You start making decisions based on alignment, not approval. You stop being afraid of rejection because you understand that rejection doesn't define your value, it simply redirects your path. Some of the most peaceful people you'll ever meet are those who stopped explaining themselves. They don't need to post every victory. They don't need to defend every choice. They've learned that silence often speaks louder than any justification. When you stop needing validation, you stop over-explaining. You stop performing. You just be. And that's when life becomes lighter. You start doing things because they feel right, not because they'll be seen. You start dressing, speaking, and living in ways that express your soul, not your image. You stop chasing people who don't care, and you start cherishing those who truly do. You stop fearing judgment because you understand that judgment says more about the person giving it than the one receiving it. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to feel peace. The kind that doesn't need to be posted, the kind that doesn't depend on validation, the kind that comes from knowing, even if no one claps for me, I will still keep going. My dear friends, remember this. When you know who you are, no one's opinion can shake you. When you validate yourself, you stop begging for recognition. You become calm in your confidence. You walk with grace instead of desperation. You shine quietly because you no longer need to be seen to know that you matter. So the next time you catch yourself asking, what will they think? Gently remind yourself, it doesn't matter what they think. It matters what I know. And what you must always know is that you are already enough. Not because someone said so, not because the world approved it, but because you exist. And that in itself is reason enough to stand tall, smile, and keep moving forward without needing anyone's validation ever again. Gratitude, such a simple word, yet it holds the power to completely transform your life. We often look for miracles outside, a big achievement, a new relationship, a major breakthrough, thinking those are the keys to happiness. But the truth is, happiness doesn't come from getting more, it comes from noticing more. Gratitude is the art of seeing blessings in places where most people see nothing. It's the shift from, I don't have enough to, I already have more than I ever realized. The mind is funny. It always wants more. More success, more comfort, more recognition, more love. But the more you chase, the emptier you feel. Because desire without gratitude is an endless hunger. You can have everything and still feel like something's missing. But the moment you start practicing gratitude, everything changes. Not because your circumstances change, but because your perspective does. When you start being thankful for the little things, you begin to realize how much beauty is already present in your life. The breath in your lungs, the sunrise outside your window, the roof over your head, the food on your plate, the people who truly care for you. These are not small things, they are everything. But the problem is, we take them for granted until they're gone. Gratitude reminds us to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, to slow down and appreciate what we already have before time teaches us its value. You see, gratitude doesn't mean ignoring your struggles. It means recognizing that even in your struggles, there are blessings. That even in your darkest moments, there is something, however small, to be thankful for. Because gratitude is not about perfection, it's about perspective. When life gets hard, gratitude says, yes, this hurts, but I'm still breathing. Yes, things are uncertain, but I'm still learning. Yes, I've lost something, but I still have something left. And that mindset, that quiet shift, is what gives you peace. Because gratitude transforms your focus from what's missing to what's meaningful. It grounds you when your emotions try to drag you down. It replaces bitterness with humility and fear with faith. Think of it like this. Imagine walking through a garden, focusing only on the weeds. You'd miss all the flowers blooming right beside them. That's how life works. The weeds are your problems. The flowers are your blessings. Gratitude teaches you to notice both, but focus on the flowers. When you live in gratitude, you stop comparing your journey to others. You stop looking at what they have and start cherishing what's already in your hands. Comparison disappears when appreciation grows. Because gratitude says, what I have is enough for today. And ironically, when you start feeling that way, life begins to give you even more. Not because you're desperate, but because you're aligned. Every morning you wake up, you're given a new chance. A chance to breathe, to love, to learn, to try again. That alone is a miracle. Yet most people open their eyes and immediately think of what's wrong, their bills, their tasks, their problems. Gratitude invites you to pause and whisper, thank you. That one small act shifts your energy for the whole day, because when the heart is grateful, the mind becomes peaceful. Gratitude also deepens relationships. When you start appreciating people, they feel seen, valued, respected. When you thank someone genuinely, not out of habit, but from your heart, it creates warmth, trust, and connection. Gratitude turns ordinary interactions into moments of love. And here's something profound. Gratitude doesn't just change your heart, it changes your brain. Science has shown that regularly practicing gratitude rewires your mind to focus more on positivity and resilience. It literally builds new neural pathways that make peace your default state. So gratitude isn't just emotional, it's neurological. It's how you train your brain to see light even in the dark. But the beauty of gratitude is that it's always available. You don't have to wait for life to be perfect to be thankful. You can be thankful right now, in the middle of the mess, in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of healing. Because gratitude is not a reaction, it's a decision. The more you practice it, the more abundance you feel. Gratitude doesn't add new things to your life. It multiplies the value of what's already there. It turns your ordinary day into a gift. It turns a meal into a feast. It turns a house into a home. It turns a stranger into a friend. Gratitude doesn't change what you see. It changes how you see. So start small. Say thank you for the sunlight on your face. Thank you for the challenges that made you stronger. Thank you for the people who stayed, and even for the ones who left, because they taught you something too. And when you make gratitude a habit, life starts to feel lighter. Problems don't disappear, but they lose their power over you. Because no matter how bad the day gets, you'll always find something to be thankful for. And that's real wealth. So, my friends, stop counting what you've lost and start counting what you still have. The more you thank life, the more life gives you to be thankful for. Gratitude doesn't just change your mood, it changes your destiny. Because a grateful heart is not just happy, it's free. There's a deep wisdom in learning how to let go, to love people deeply, but not cling to them desperately. Detachment is often misunderstood. People think it means being cold, distant, or uncaring. But that's not true. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving, it means you stop suffering through attachment. It's about holding love with open hands instead of closed fists. It's about understanding that everything in life, people, moments, experiences, is temporary, and that doesn't make them less beautiful, it makes them more beautiful. When you cling, you live in fear. You fear losing people, losing control, losing outcomes. And that fear poisons your peace. You start trying to control situations. You start expecting others to behave a certain way. You start demanding that life follow your script. And when it doesn't, you get hurt. Not because life was cruel, but because your attachment didn't allow you to accept change. Detachment, on the other hand, is freedom. It's not indifference. It's maturity. It's the calm understanding that people have their own journeys, their own lessons, their own timelines, and you are just a chapter in their book, just as they are a chapter in yours. You don't have to chain people to you out of fear that they'll leave, because love that's held too tightly eventually suffocates. But love that's allowed to breathe, that kind of love lasts even when people part ways. Think about it. The sun rises every morning, but it never holds onto the sky. The waves touch the shore, but they always return to the sea. The flower blooms, but it never clings to the soil that nourished it. Nature teaches us that everything beautiful exists in a rhythm of attachment and release. And yet we humans, with our minds full of stories and our hearts full of fear, struggle to trust that rhythm. When you practice detachment, you stop trying to force outcomes. You stop thinking, they must stay with me, or things must go my way. Instead, you start saying, if it's meant for me, it will stay. If it's not, I will still be okay. That's the mindset of true strength, loving fully, giving freely, and still being peaceful when life changes direction. Detachment also means understanding that you cannot save everyone. Sometimes, you must love people enough to let them face their own lessons. You can support them, guide them, pray for them. But you cannot live their life for them. Because growth often comes through pain, and detachment respects that pain as part of their process. It takes great strength to step back and say, I love you, but I respect your journey. It takes maturity to not chase, not beg, not plead, but to trust. To trust that what's meant for you will return, not because you forced it, but because it truly belongs. Detachment doesn't weaken relationships, it purifies them. When you stop attaching out of need, love becomes unconditional. You love because it feels natural, not because you expect something in return. And that's the most liberating form of love, to care without controlling, to give without expecting, to stay without fearing. That's when you experience love as it was meant to be, pure, free, and expansive. But detachment isn't just about people. It's also about outcomes. So often we get attached to how life should look, how our career should unfold, how our dreams should manifest, how our plans should work. And when they don't happen the way we imagined, we feel crushed. But life rarely follows our blueprint. Sometimes it breaks your heart just to rebuild your soul. Detachment means trusting that every delay, every rejection, every ending has a deeper purpose. It means saying, this didn't work out, but maybe something better is unfolding. It means loosening your grip on control and letting the universe do its work, because control is exhausting, but trust is peaceful. When you learn to detach, your energy shifts. You stop chasing and you start attracting. You stop reacting and you start responding. You stop depending on others for happiness and you start finding it in yourself. And that's when everything begins to flow effortlessly. Because you're no longer forcing, you're allowing. You see, detachment doesn't mean walking away from everything. It means walking as with everything, without being consumed by it. It means being in the world, but not enslaved by it. To enjoy what you have, without fearing its loss. To love deeply, without losing yourself. And the beauty of this practice is that it brings immense peace. You stop carrying emotional weight that isn't yours. You stop resenting people for changing. You stop feeling broken when things end. Instead, you smile, you bless, and you move forward, lighter, freer, stronger. There's a quiet confidence that comes with detachment. Because when you no longer depend on things or people to define your happiness, nothing can truly shake you. You stop clinging and start flowing. You stop panicking and start trusting. You realize that life isn't meant to be controlled, it's meant to be experienced. So love people, but don't imprison them. Care deeply, but don't lose yourself. Enjoy what you have, but don't depend on it to feel alive. Because everything that comes into your life is a gift. But none of it was ever meant to stay forever. The only thing permanent is your own peace. And when you protect that peace through detachment, you begin to live with an open heart and steady soul, loving everyone, attached to no one, and at peace with everything.